Hi folks, I'm back from my run and I'm back in my office. I'm going to be doing two presentations for you. The first presentation is going to be talking about releases I made over last year and plans for future 3.4.0 release, and also the development that's gone on in last year but at a very high level. My second presentation, I'll go in more detail about some of the project work I've been doing over the last year that will be part of the core OpenSceneGraph and also part of the next 3.4.0 release. Okay, release we've actually made over the last year, which will be useful to end users, is the 3.2.1 release. Now this was released on the 4th of July this year, and it's binary compatible with 3.2.0, so it means you can actually just drop it directly into your application development without the need to actually recompile your applications. The 3.3.1 release is built off the 3.2 branch and contains a range of bug fixes and a few minor performance enhancements, and perhaps most crucially a range of build fixes to help with all the different platform changes which have been made over last year. So even though the actual functionality in 3.2.0 code base hasn't actually changed very much, the actual platform environment that people are using it within has changed dramatically. So we've actually had to update the CMake build system and also various different source files just to account for those changes with the actual platform environment. So that's all wrapped up in 3.2.1. It's essentially the same functionality as you'll get 3.2.0, but just a little more refined. So that's what I'd recommend that you use for application development for the next 6 months while you're preparing for 3.4. So what will go in 3.4? So I'll now talk about a very high level overview of what I've been working on and what others have been working on last year. What you'll find with the latest developments is all part of being connected to the OpenSceneGraph SVN trunk and also been released with the 3.3.x developer releases. All bug fixes and build fixes from the 3.2 branch are part of the SVN trunk, and also as well all the improvements for GLES and Android and iOS, and a few additional ones above what's in 3.2.1 is also part of latest developments in the SVN trunk. There's been various different performance enhancements, and also perhaps the most important for a lot of most users is actually some general API enhancements for greater flexibility. What do these API enhancements look like? Well, the main area of work that most people will actually be aware of will be that I've refactored OSG drawable. So rather than being subclassed directly from OSG object, it's now a subclass from OSG node. What that means is that you can actually attach your geometries directly to other nodes, so you can actually use it as a root node in the SceneGraph. There's no need to actually decorate a geometry with a geode anymore. That just makes it a little bit more flexible for end users, and also it means that there's just one less node for the SceneGraph to traverse. So potentially there's a little performance improvement. I wouldn't expect big performance improvements, but a little one. And the main advantage really is just that little bit extra flexibility and ease of use. Another area I've worked on, which has been done partly because of the actual refactor of OSG drawable to be subclass from OSG node, and partly also to help with other work like the scripting work, which I'll talk about later on. Now, when we actually merged drawable and into OSG node, then one of the overlaps was actually the callbacks. They both had callbacks for update and event callbacks, and those overlapped. So rather than actually have two sets of different update callbacks to maintain that compatibility, what we've gone for is an actually callback base class that all these separate classes are actually subclassed from. And when your applications compile against one of those subclasses, it will maintain backwards compatibility. But you can now actually use the actual base class directly in your own subclasses. And that's particularly important when doing scripting, because the actual scripting, when you actually create a custom script, say in Lua, you won't want to worry about about the particular types of where you attach to. You just want to attach another callback and have it work. You wouldn't want to know whether it's a drawable or whether it's a a group node. You just want it to work. So this new mechanism enables that. The other big area of development, and which has actually probably been 90% of my work over the last year, has been part of the Joint Medical Visualization project. Now, that is a project that's been done funded by Aberdeen University's Medical College, and the work has also basically all been made with part of the OpenSceneGraph. And the core areas of work we've been working on is volume rendering, so that's all wrapped up in OSG NodeKit, improvements to the event handling and device support within the OpenSceneGraph, so that's focused around OSGGA and also plugins that extend it. And there's also now scripting support directly integrated into the core OSG, and it exposes all the standard SceneGraph nodes to being created or modified by the scripts themselves. Currently we have one concrete script implementation, and that's with our Lua plugin that actually wraps up everything you need to support Lua. There's no external dependencies. And finally, we have a new OSG UI library which will deprecate OSG widget. Now, OSG UI library has a few more flexibilities, which I'll talk about later, over and above OSG widgets, and will be a little bit more future-proofed. All right. Finally, how about 3.4? Well, basically, I need to wrap up OSG UI and the scripting work for the volume rendering, and do that this month. And my plan, if everything goes to plan, will be to make a branch of OSG 3.4 branch at the end of this month, and then we'll need at least 2 or 3 weeks of testing, and that will take us into mid to late September before you can actually make a release of 3.4. I don't want to hang around beyond that because there's other work we want to do beyond it. So that's my current plan. We'll just have to see how we get on with that. We need as much testing as possible with the release. So as when you're back from Siggraph, I want you guys to check out SVN Trunk and the latest development releases and just see how well it works with your applications. If there's any problems, report them on OSG users' mail list or the forum, and we'll try and resolve those problems as soon as possible. The more testing we get early on, the more likely 3.4 out the door, nice and robust and perfect. So thank you for your support on that. That's the rest of it for this presentation, and hope you all guys are having fun. I would answer questions now, but I can't really hear you on the other side of the Atlantic, so I'll just wrap up this presentation now. Right, thanks.